students, in the last class we discussed about anaerobic respiration process, right? Within that respiration process, oxygen is not required, finally produces the energy, and see there is in products also produced. See, by the yeast cells, if the fermentation is occurred, there is an ethyl alcohol production takes place. And we know that bacteria, okay, absence of oxygen, there is in, actually which are grown in anaerobic conditions mostly. Okay, see, especially that bacteria in anaerobic conditions, it produces the lactic acid. It produces the lactic acid. So what I'm telling here, aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration is quite different. Aerobic means the breakdown of molecules occurs presence of oxygen, right? Aerobic. Anaerobic means breakdown of molecules occurs absence of oxygen or without requirement of oxygen. So that is the basic difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. In the last class I explained anaerobic respiration also occurs in the human beings. Whatever that skeletal muscle cells are there, within that skeletal muscle cells, when we are running or continuous running process, vigorous exercise condition, the body lack of oxygen, in that case energy is required. So for the production of energy, there is a glycolysis takes place, followed by the lactic acid production takes place. That one is called as Cori cycle. So this is the one of the eukaryotic cell. Within that eukaryotic cell, aerobic respiration. We know, I already said about this one so many times. See here, glucose molecule, one of the blood vessel is there. The blood vessel transports the glucose molecules. There is an glucose transporters are there. Glucose molecules are transported by the glucose transporters. Once that channels are opened, see, these are the glucose transporters. The opening and closing of that glucose transporters controlled by the insulin hormone. Insulin, we know that insulin, right? So insulin hormone regulates that opening and closing of that glucose transporters. See, in any person body, if the insulin hormone is not produced, that is nothing but diabetes condition. Diabetic condition, again in that types are there, but diabetic condition means if the insulin hormone is not produced, there is no opening of glucose transporters. So in the blood, more amount of glucose levels are accumulated. That is nothing but diabetic condition. It is nothing but the diabetic condition. So this is the cell, one of the healthy person cell. Here there is a glucose transporters are there. The transporters are opened. The glucose molecules are transported from outside the cell to inside the cell. Once that glucose molecule is entered, see, which involved in that oxidation process. That is nothing but breakdown of molecules, presence of oxygen. See, oxidation is nothing but here breakdown. So we have glucose is converted into that pyruvate. So several steps are there between these two conversions. Glucose 6-phosphate, fructose 6-phosphate, fructose 1,6-bisphosphate, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, right? 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, right? 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, not 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate, right? There is a 2-phosphoglycerate. Finally, phosphonyl pyruvate finally produces the pyruvate. So I'll explain each and every step of the glycolysis. So here glucose 2-pyruvate, the production is occurred here. During that conversion process, NAD plus is converted into that NADH plus H plus. See, here NAD is the low energy compound, it's converted into the high energy compound, right? So that production is occurred during that glycolysis process. Remember, one glucose molecule produces 2 pyruvate molecules. One glucose molecule produces 2 pyruvate. Glucose 6-carbon compound. Pyruvate is a 3-carbon compound. So the glucose is breakdown into the 2 molecules of pyruvates. So which are entering inside the mitochondria. See, the pyruvate is converted into the acetyl-CoA. This reaction is called as link reaction. All of you remember here, glucose is converted into pyruvate. The step is called as glycolysis. Right? So after that pyruvate production, this one is converted into acetyl-CoA. See, this reaction is called as link reaction. So the link reaction also produces means NAD plus is converted into NADH plus H plus. The pyruvate is converted into the acetyl-CoA, right? See, the enzyme name is pyruvate dehydrogenase. So during this conversion process, NAD is converted into NADH plus H plus. Then acetyl CoA enter into the TCA cycle. Within the TCA cycle, there is an high energy compounds are produced. The energy compounds are NADH plus H plus is produced, FADH2 is produced, right? And next one is the ATP also produced. ATP also produced. So remember all of you, see these two components are interact with the electron transport chain. These two components are interact with the electron transport chain. So electron transport chain, presence of oxygen produces the water. Finally it produces the ATP. So what I am telling here, TCA cycle produces energy compounds which are interact with the electron transport chain. Finally produces the ATP. So what we are breathing, that the oxygen exactly utilized by the electron transport chain. So electron transport chain produces ATP. See, I mentioned here two questions: why glycolysis occurs in cytoplasm, why TCA cycle occurs inside the mitochondria. Very simple answer. See, the enzymes which are required for the glycolysis, which are available only in cytoplasm. The enzymes which are required for the glycolysis reactions, which are available within cytoplasm. The enzymes which are required for the TCA cycle, all these are available inside the mitochondria. So mitochondria responsible for the TCA cycle, and mitochondria responsible for the electron transport chain, right? Mitochondria is responsible for the ATP production, right? So here glycolysis, within the glycolysis also, ATP is produced, but a very minimum number of ATP molecules are produced. See, the term is called as substrate level phosphorylation. I will explain what is substrate level phosphorylation. So glucose converted into the pyruvate. Glycolysis occurs in only cytoplasm because enzymes only present within cytoplasm which are involved in the glycolysis. TCA cycle occurs only inside the mitochondria because the enzymes are only available inside the mitochondria. So this is about the aerobic respiration process. I like to ask one question here. Sir, within TCA cycle there is no direct involvement of within glycolysis process there is no direct involvement of oxygen. See, within TCA cycle also, any step, that one is not indicating for the involvement of oxygen. Then why this one is called as glucose oxidation? See, very simple. We kept the heading aerobic respiration. Means presence of oxygen, molecules breakdown takes place. Sir, in TCA cycle there is no involvement of oxygen. Then how oxygen regulates the TCA cycle? If oxygen is absent, TCA cycle is absent. Means in an aerobic respiration process, right, there is no TCA cycle. Because oxygen is absent, TCA cycle is absent. In anaerobic respiration process, only glycolysis is extended. Pyruvate one case, decarboxylation. Pyruvate another case, again hydrogen atoms are added. In one case, lactate production. In another case, acetaldehyde production followed by alcohol production. Right? So, in the anaerobic respiration process, no TCA cycle. So what I'm asking here, there is no direct involvement of oxygen. With the TCA cycle. Then why oxygen is required? Why oxygen is required for aerobic respiration process? Simply, oxygen is absent, TCA cycle also absent. Oxygen is absent, TCA cycle is absent. How oxygen regulating the TCA cycle? Very simple answer. Simple. TCA cycle is there. If oxygen is absent, TCA cycle is not takes place. But oxygen is not directly involved in the TCA cycle. Then how oxygen regulates TCA cycle? See. Yeah. I'll explain. Here in TCA cycle, this is the TCA cycle. Within the TCA cycle, low energy compounds NAD plus, right, FADH2 or FAD plus initially, which are converted into NADH plus H plus, FADH2. So if the cell want to run TCA cycle, definite requirements are here NAD plus and FADH2. If these two are absent, there is no TCA cycle. If these two are absent, okay, there is no TCA cycle. When these are available, the NADH plus H plus and FADH2, these two are interact with the electron transport chain. These two are interact with the electron transport chain. See, these two compounds, presence of oxygen, okay, which are converted into the ATP. The high energy compounds are converted into the ATP. So when these high energy compounds are converted into low energy compound, see, these high energy compounds, presence of molecular oxygen, which are, okay, interact with the electron transport chain. Simply, the high energy compounds are interact with the electron transport chain. Then the electron transport chain, okay, presence of molecular oxygen produces the ATP. If oxygen is absent, these are always existing high energy compounds. There is no low energy compounds. There is no TCA cycle. Running. So what I'm telling, high energy compounds are interact with electron transport chain, presence of molecular oxygen. Then high energy compounds are converted into low energy compounds. Then low energy compounds are available, TCA cycle will be occurred. When the low energy compounds are available, when the oxygen is available, that time high energy compounds are converted into low energy compounds. Low energy compounds are available, TCA cycle will be takes place. So here oxygen is not directly involved in the TCA cycle, but indirectly interact with the electron transport chain. That electron transport chain involved in the conversion of high energy compounds into low energy compounds. That low energy compounds are regulating the TCA cycle. So that is the very, very important bit for the NEET examination or for the examination also. So here oxygen is not directly involved in the TCA cycle, but it regulates the TCA cycle. That's the reason why this one is considered as aerobic respiration process. Right? Next one we'll discuss about the differences between aerobic respiration and the anaerobic respiration. Coming to the next one, differences between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. See, what are the reactions that takes place? Which type of products are produced? Right? For suppose in aerobic respiration, what kind of products are produced? In anaerobic respiration, what kind of products are not produced? So, based on all these parameters we are discussing now. See, aerobic respiration process. Here, glycolysis takes place or not? Definitely. Either in aerobic respiration or anaerobic respiration. Both the cases, the glycolysis will be takes place. The glycolysis is extended. This one is, okay, in aerobic respiration process, enter into TCA cycle. If the glycolysis produces the alcohol or lactic acid, that one is the anaerobic respiration process. So the very key point is here, both aerobic and anaerobic glycolysis will be takes place. Right? So the very first point is present in both the cases. Link reaction. Remember, I already said the pyruvate is converted into acetyl-CoA. The reaction is called as link reaction. If acetyl-CoA production takes place, definitely TCA cycle will be takes place. So the link reaction only occurs. in aerobic respiration process. In anaerobic respiration process, there is no link reaction. Further, there is no TCA cycle also, because this is an anaerobic respiration process. So there is no use of acetyl-CoA production. There is no T-cell cycle. That's the reason why in anaerobic respiration process, okay, the link reaction is not takes place, followed by the T-cell cycle also not occur. Right? See, T-cell cycle, this one is only occurs in aerobic respiration only. Anaerobic respiration, T-cell cycle is absent. Substrate level phosphorylation. See, this is one of, what is substrate level phosphorylation? This is one of the substrate. It's having the phosphate. So this one is interact with the ADP molecule. So this is a substrate, right? So the ADP is converted into ATP. So this is called as substrate level phosphorylation. Substrate level phosphorylation is nothing but synthesis of ATP by the donation of phosphates by other components. See, some of the components are there which are having the phosphates. The phosphate molecules are donated to the ADP molecules. Then the ADP presence of phosphate produces the ATP. So synthesis of ATP by the substrates contain phosphate molecules. So this is called as substrate level phosphorylation. So substrate level phosphorylation occurs in aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. We know there is in 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate is there. That one is converted into the 3-phosphoglycerate. That time 1 ATP production takes place. Then phosphoenol pyruvate is converted into pyruvate. So phosphoenol pyruvate contain phosphate is donated to ADP, right? Then ADP is converted into ATP. So finally pyruvate is produced. Phosphate is donated. So that is also one of the substrate level phosphorylation. So SLP occurs in glycolysis, means glycolysis present both aerobic and anaerobic. So substrate level also present in both aerobic and anaerobic respirations, right? NADH plus H plus production. So we already discussed. In TC cycle, NADH plus H plus production takes place. In glycolysis, NADH plus H plus production takes place. So in glycolysis, NADH plus H plus production takes place. So both aerobic and anaerobic, the NADH plus H plus production takes place. Right? Next one, FADH2. FADH2 is one of the component that one is only produced in TC cycle. FADH2 only produced in TC cycle. TC cycle is only takes place in aerobic respiration. TC cycle only takes place in aerobic respiration. So anaerobic respiration, there is no production of FADH2, right? And total substrate level phosphorylations. So within aerobic respiration, right? TC cycle also involved in the substrate level phosphorylation. In aerobic respiration process, glycolysis involving substrate level phosphorylation. TC cycle also involving substrate level phosphorylation. So total substrate level phosphorylations in aerobic respiration 6. In aerobic respiration, total number of substrate level phosphorylations. Total number of substrate level phosphorylations in aerobic respiration is 6. Right? Simple. In aerobic respiration, total number of substrate level phosphorylations are 6. Right? Anaerobic respiration. Here, anaerobic respiration, there is no TC cycle. Only glycolysis takes place. Substrate level phosphorylations takes place. So here, number of substrate level phosphorylations are 4. Here, number of substrate level phosphorylations are 4. Here, 6. So complete oxidation of glucose. In aerobic respiration process. Complete oxidation of glucose molecule in aerobic respiration process. Okay. Complete oxidation produces 38 ATPs. Complete oxidation produces 38 ATPs. In that 2 ATPs are utilized. 2 ATPs are utilized in glycolysis process. So net gain is 36 ATPs. The net gain is 36 ATPs. So In aerobic respiration process, the net gain of ATPs are 36, but complete oxidation of glucose produced ATPs are 38. 2 ATPs are utilized in glycolysis. In anaerobic respiration process, okay, the complete, not complete oxidation here. By the anaerobic respiration process, 4 ATPs are produced. 4 ATPs are produced. In that, 2 ATPs are utilized. So net gain is 2 ATPs. The net gain is the 2 ATPs. So aerobic respiration process, the net gain of ATPs are 36. In anaerobic respiration process, the net gain of ATPs are 2. Right? And alcohol. Here alcohol production not occurs in aerobic respiration. Okay, alcohol production carried out by anaerobic respiration. Right? And lactic acid production. See, lactic acid production occurs in both aerobic and anaerobic. In the last class I give an example, human body, the skeletal muscles contains, okay, so there is a special cycle is called as Cori cycle. So the presence of Cori cycle, lactic acid production takes place. So aerobic respiration involved in the lactic acid production, anaerobic respiration also involved in the lactic acid production. So these are the differences between aerobic respiration and the anaerobic respiration. So next class onwards we'll discuss about that each and every step of the glycolysis and what are the changes that takes place. We'll discuss, right? So this is about that aerobic respiration and the anaerobic respiration, right?